Okay, I'm going to go over the adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing integers formative quiz. So remember, a positive times a positive is going to give you a positive. So, and then a positive times a negative, which will give you a negative, right? Because if you have 3 groups of 4 negatives, right, you're going to get a negative answer. So in this case, I have 5 times a negative 6. Well, 5 times a negative 6 is just a negative 30. Okay, so this is a positive times a negative, which will give you a negative answer. All right, so negative 5 times 5 is negative 35. Negative 35 times 2 is 70. So a negative times a negative is a positive. Okay, so your answer would be 70. This next one is negative 72 divided by 12. So let's determine if it's positive or negative. I have a positive or a negative divided by a positive. Well, that would give me a negative answer. So my answer is going to be negative. Now, what is 72 divided by, 12? That would be 6. Okay, so my answer would be negative 6. All right, so this one is negative 56 divided by a negative 8. A negative divided by a negative is going to be a positive. So my answer is going to be positive. So now I just have to figure out what is 56 divided by 8. Well, that's 7. So my answer is positive 7. Next one, number 6. Evaluate the expression when x equals negative 6 and y equals negative 24. When it says evaluate, that means to plug in your x's and your y's. So instead of an x, I'm going to write negative 6. And then for my y, I'm going to write negative 24. Now you've got to be careful because the subtraction sign is still there. So that means that subtraction sign should be right here. This negative 24 is not the same thing as that subtraction. All right, so now I have to solve. So I have negative 6. And then what's the opposite of a negative 24? Well, that's just plus. So it's going to be negative 6 plus 24 over negative 6. And that's equal to, well, the first thing I'm going to do is do the top. So I have a negative 6 plus 24. So since I have some positives and some negatives, I have the opposite sign. So I'm going to subtract the 2. So then I would get 18. And are there more positives or negatives? There's more positives, so my answer is going to be positive on the top. And then I keep the negative 6 on the bottom here. Okay, so a negative or positive 18 divided by a negative 6 is a negative 3. So my answer is negative 3. 7, negative 4 to the third. Well, first I'm going to write out what does this mean. This means negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. So what is negative 4 times negative 4? Well, a negative times a negative is a positive, so that's going to be a positive 16. And then I have times this last negative 4 here. So 16 times 4 is equal to 64. And a positive times a negative is a negative. So my answer is negative 64. Number 8. So I had a negative 7 minus 4. So if I'm on a number line and I'm at negative 7, when I subtract, here, zero's over here, right? I'm going to go back 4 more. Okay, so I have negative 7, negative 8, negative 9, negative 10, negative 11. So negative 7 minus 4 is negative 11. Let's go on to the next page. So I have 9, which was 15 minus 34. Well, Think about it. I'm 15 and I'm subtracting 34. I don't have enough, so my answer is going to be a negative. Now, since I have some positives and negatives, I'm just going to subtract. What's 34 minus 15? It's 19, so my answer is going to be negative 19. On this one, I have negative 9 minus the negative 3. Well, this minus the negative 3 is going to be plus 3. So now I have some negatives and I have some positives, and I'm adding them together. So that means, are there more negatives or positives? There's more negatives. So that means my answer is going to be negative. I'm going to subtract in my head. So 9 minus 3 is 6. So my answer is negative 6. Number 11, I have negative 3 plus 5. Well, I have some negatives and I have some positives. So I'm going to subtract in my head. So 5 minus 3 is 2. Are there more positives or negatives? Well, there's more positives, so my answer is going to be positive 2. And our last one here, you need to do it from left to right using GEMDAS, right? Orders of operation. So negative 4 plus negative 8, well, they're both negative, so I'm going to add my negatives together. So negative 4 plus 8 more negatives is negative 12, and then plus 2. Okay, so now I have negatives and positives. So in my head, I'm going to subtract. So 12 minus 2 is 10. And then are there more negatives or more positives? There's more negatives. There's 12 negatives, so that means my answer is going to be negative 10. Okay? All right, that's the end of that quiz.